on behalf of the History and Legacy Task Force of the NABWMT. This afternoon we're here at the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Philadelphia at the end of the 1999 convention, and we are interviewing Bob Williams, who is not only chair of this convention, but I believe was chair of the 1994 convention in Arlington, Virginia, and also served as co-chair of the National Association itself from 1991 to 1994. Good afternoon, and welcome.
Thank you.
So how's your week been?
Tiring.
Now, you've been working on this convention for 2 years?
Yes.
And you live in Florida?
Yes.
How's that?
Well, I live in Florida. That's how it is. I lived down there for about 2.5 years, and when Philadelphia first started talking about wanting to do a convention, I wasn't living down there. I was living in the D.C. area. But the program was to be done, and it's been great.
How many times have you had to come up?
Oh, gosh. I've been up here approximately about 9 times over the past 2 years.
What was your first contact with BWT? Was it local or national?
My first contact with BWMT was with the Cleveland chapter. I'm one of the first members of the Cleveland chapter. Back in 1980, when Jerry Mallon came out to visit Cleveland, and the chapter that was just getting started. That was my first contact with the chapter, with the organization.
Who was in the chapter then?
The one person I can remember is Jim Price. And the meetings were kind of vague when we first started. You had people coming in and out, and people were kind of curious about what was going on. But the one that was really consistent was Jim Price.
Why did you come to BWMT originally? What motivated you?
I had a desire to meet white guys. I was in a relationship there with a white guy, and it was kind of uncomfortable going different places, and this rumor about there was an organization out there that kind of catered to black and white couples where you felt safe, and it wasn't about all the other programs. It was just about there were other black and white guys there, and that's what attracted me to it.
Now, how long were you involved with the chapter in Cleveland?
Or
was it a chapter at that time?
Oh, it had become a chapter, yeah. Only about a year. I took a job out here in Philadelphia, and in 1981, and the Philadelphia chapter was just enough on the street, and I became very involved here too.
And that was when Jerry Mallon was here, and
Jerry Mallon, oh gosh, a lot of them were here, but Jerry Mallon was the chairman when I came out here.
And how long were you here?
From 81 to 87. I was the newsletter editor here for a while, I was secretary for a while, and pretty involved for a while here at the Philadelphia chapter.
And then you moved to the D.C. area?
Washington, D.C. I got transferred to Washington, D.C.
And you got involved there?
Yep, immediately got involved with the D.C. chapter. One of the things that made me feel welcome to D.C. was to be involved in the chapter down there. I didn't know anybody down there, and this space, I think, was the chairman there, and it was pretty good.
When you first, can you remember the first meeting or the first get-together you had when you went to the chapter in Cleveland?
No. It was at Jim Price's house in University Heights.
Do you remember what your feelings were attending that meeting? Do you remember how you felt afterwards? I mean, was it what you expected, or?
My feelings, I can't really recall my feelings too much, except that they had some good-looking white guys there. I think that was my main reason, to see the good-looking white guys.
Now, when was your first national meeting? When was your first involvement? Was it a convention? Or?
Yeah, my first national meeting was at the San Francisco chapter. Columbus, Ohio, was going to have was having a convention, but I couldn't afford to go to it. And in '89, I wasn't able to go. But in 1990, I was able to afford to go to the San Francisco convention.
And your attendance there was basically in the fact that that was the one you could afford to
That was
go
the one I
to.
could afford to go to.
And what do you remember your impressions of that convention, your first national convention?
I was overwhelmed. It was just a great feeling to see all the black and white multiracial couples there, and the workshop was great. I'd never been to San Francisco, so that was really great. Was there during the Pride, I guess it was Gay Pride Parade. See that many gay people in one area, it's like, whoa. It was just good. My whole experience out there was just a positive experience. So it was fun.
Have you been to every convention since then?
Yes.
Do you have some specific memories of each convention? What sort of stands out in your mind from each convention you've attended, if anything?
All the conventions have been really good. I enjoyed. San Francisco was a groundbreaker for me, so it was like I really look forward to going to the next one. And in Detroit, it was just the program was so exciting. I think after that, the talent show stood out more to me. And then get a little bit more involved with the operations and the programs and the goals and bylaws, all the meetings. That was really exciting.
Have you noticed a change in the conventions over the years? Are the ones you went to years ago any different from the ones now?
I've noticed somewhat of a change, yes. I find it seems to me that in San Francisco that the people seem to be a little bit more involved, a little bit more excited about the House of Delegates. A lot of spirit in them, and the board meetings, I got a chance to sit on a couple of them. There was a little bit more spirit in those. People left with a renewed feeling that some things were going to happen when they left, going back to their personal encounters. So I think what I felt then versus what I feel now, your House of Delegates don't have a lot of people sitting them anymore. Whereas your House of Delegates there, had kind of standing room.
Do you think people returning from conventions now are less energized than they were then?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because of burnout. I feel the ones I saw in 1990, the same few people that were there are generally the same people now, and they tend to carry the weight. I don't feel that a lot of the people have gone on, lost age, a lot of people. So the people who are experiencing it for the first time don't have the same dedication or feeling that those people have. That's what I think that will be the reason why. That's what I feel inside.
Now, your first convention was 1990, but it was just about a year later that you came on the national board. Is that right?
Yeah.
How did that happen?
In 1990, my idol John Timmer was chairman, and he mentioned that he was going to resign. And we had a board member in D.C. that wasn't in good health at that point, who had kind of pulled back from being a board director. And I felt, with my involvement on a local level for many years, I thought, well, that was been a good opportunity to try to get my feet wet and try to make some things happen. So I had a lot of energy, and I was all motivated and excited about different things. So that's how I got involved with the board.
Did you first run as a director?
I was appointed as a director.
As a director?
Yes.
And how long did you serve as a director?
A year.
And then what happened?
Then I committed suicide. After that, that's when I ran to fill a vacancy for John Timmer. I resigned from the board, fill the Blackwood appointment.
And that was in Detroit?
I was in Detroit.
In 1991?
Yeah.
And you had some opposition in that election, didn't you?
Got a lot of opposition. One, people felt that I wasn't out enough. I was married. People would wonder why I was married. Previously, yes.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of quiet. A lot of people really didn't know too much about me at that point. And I guess it kind of prove yourself you have to really prove yourself. I'm a quiet person in my own way, somewhat conservative. So my ideas and the way I carried myself was just being visible wasn't really ready noticeable by a lot of people who I was in. So I met a lot of opposition in that respect.
But you won the election
Won the election.
for, it was a one-year term,
One-year
wasn't
term.
it? Right. And you served with whom?
Michael Warner. Yeah.
And how long did you serve with him?
Served with Michael, I think, for almost a year.
And then what happened?
Michael was asked to resign, but I think he resigned after some problems we had there. And we had to actually go out for a search for a white co-chair.
And?
He got made recommendations, and Alvin Venuti was the person who filled that position. He was already on the board
And so you served with him
for 2 years.
Did you both run for election the next year?
No, I really don't remember. I think
I think you ran in '92 for 2 years, didn't
Yeah.
you? And was he already on the board then? I don't know. He was a director.
Yeah, he may have been a director.
Yeah. Anyway, you served with him until the Arlington Convention in '94.
Yeah.
So you basically served as co-chair for 3 years.
Yes.
What do you remember most about your term as co-chair?
All the mess that was out there. First thing I remember, in 1991, there was a lot of hard feelings about the Michael Smith Trust. It didn't seem as if people were really interested in what was going on, to the point that nobody took the effort to go and sit down and talk to the person who was managing the trust. At that point, it was Kenneth Marshall. So one of the first things I did was to drive down to Atlanta, and I met with Ken Marshall. And also at that point, Alonzo Wade, and we talked, and I got a little bit more understanding about the trust, and kind of stroked Ken Marshall a little bit, because there was a lot of bad feelings between the board, really NA and the trust. At least that's what I perceived.
Now the trust was set up when Michael Smith died and left the bulk of his estate, which I guess was his home in Atlanta,
Yeah.
to the National Association, but in trust. Is that right?
Trust,
Man?
yeah.
And Ken Marshall was the first trustee.
First trustee. And I remember him coming out to Dallas that summer, and that was real nice. And it was great because that was the last function I think he actually attended. But we were able to bridge that gap of misunderstanding. And at that point, we felt a little bit better between the trust and Michael, the Michael Smith Trust and NA. And the other memorable thing was the NA task force, the separation of the task force and from the NA, they wanted to take on their own, and that was a little struggle. I guess I met a little opposition because people felt I was bad.
Did that separation actually occur during your term?
Oh yeah, we had the memorandum of understanding and actually made the complete separation. Pretty good.
What do you consider were your major or main accomplishments as co-chair?
Being an administrator, being able to help with the national office set up, hiring the first full-time staff person, being able to work with all the chapters. I visited all the chapters at 2 during that tenure. I felt that just that presence brought a lot of people together, and made it feel a bit more family. I think the accomplishment working with a board that kind of worked well. We had our disagreements, but I think we accomplished a lot of things during that time.
Can you explain I'm hesitant to use the word saga of the national office, but it was kind of a saga. Can you explain how it was first set up? Where was the first national office?
In Chicago.
And how did that come about?
From what I remember, the Chicago chapter was sharing an office at that Gay Community Center. We were always talking about a national office. And Ken Allen, who was appointed treasurer of NA, was very, very active, and he pursued us having an office in Chicago that NA paid a portion of its rent. And the need was felt that we needed something in a city where a lot of other gay organizations were, and so I sort of competed for holding office of Philadelphia. Well, I'm in Philadelphia in Washington, D.C., 93. And all this also happened around the same time we were planning the March on Washington, which we were very involved in, so that's what I feel. It's told in Chicago.
And we hired a staff person there
In D.C.?
in Chicago.
We had a part-time staff person in Chicago, which was Ed Clinton. Yeah.
And what happened? Well, how long was the office in Chicago, and what happened that it moved?
The office, if my memory serves me correct, was only there for a little over a year, and the community center closed, so we actually, that time I was chair, and now Bill Venuto was chair. We actually drove down to Vallejo, drove to Chicago, and got some things that we had and brought back to the town, which made us a little bit more adamant, like an office set up in the Washington, D.C. area. But the center closed, our office was part of that center.
And you promoted the transfer of the office to D.C. What was your thinking in doing that?
I felt that wherever your national co-chair is, my personal thinking there is your office should be there, and I felt personally that with all the national gay organizations in the city were all willing to be doing with that our national office should be recognized and be in that city. Those were my mission feelings about it.
Now that the national co-chair isn't in D.C., but the office is, you still think it's a good idea to keep it there?
Yes, I think it's a good idea to keep it there.
What, you touched on this, oh, well, let me go back. So when the office moved to D.C., we hired a new office person, is that right?
Yes,
Was that done right away, or?
No, it wasn't. We actually set up committees, had an interview process. It didn't happen right away. I think it happened almost a year after we actually had an office in D.C. I think pretty close to a year because we had to seek funding for it, and actually get some people to apply for the job.
How was the office staffed in that first year?
The first year, I spent many hours there. I think I spent more hours at the national office than I did on my regular job. I was averaging about 86 hours a week between my job and the national office. And we had some other members in the D.C. chapter that would come in and do some volunteer work.
Who were they?
Oh, Boyd Hager, Jim Terrell, Robert Dingle. We had Herman Civil, Ted Mann. And then at one point there was a young black guy, I can't think of his name, he was straight. But he would want to do, he used our office as a place to, to do his paperwork because he was did more marketing and insurance. And he actually asked if all of us to tell him, for us when we went there.
Now, when we did hire a full-time office person, that was Will Brennan.
Yeah.
What were his duties? He was full-time.
He was full-time. Initially, Will Brennan's job was full-time. We had personnel policies to describe his duties. I don't know exactly what they are, but they were to do fundraising, managing the office, acting as a liaison for all the chapters through the U.S. He was a conduit for all the other organizations that to get information out about who NABWT was. And I remember we contacted an attorney in Atlanta who made a contract for us with him, the Will Bank, specifying those duties. But he had a full-time job. His job was really, the first year was to also seek funding to pay for his own job.
So how did those various tasks that he was to do work out?
I don't know, after 94, or somebody else was saying it.
He was hired then right at the end of your...
Right at the end of my term. He was hired. The board voted to bring him on board, I think it was in April or May of that year. And we worked very closely to that point, and then on September 30th, my time ended, and the board was over.
Are there any other particular things or accomplishments you remember from your term as co-chair?
Just being a co-chair was just great. I can't remember. So much went on that I don't, I really don't never dwell on just did the different things. It's kind of hard to come up on any one particular thing.
We had a lot of board meetings during that time. Do any of them stand out in your mind? Anything that happened? Anything strange, funny, offbeat?
All of the board meetings were strange and fun and offbeat. The one I think that stands out most to me was the board meeting we had in Tampa. It was in January of '94, I think it was.
It was the weekend before the Northridge earthquake in California. I remember that.
And it was kind of unique because we had never, as many times as we had gone into executive session, we had never been challenged before. And it was kind of unique that we had gone into executive session about an issue, and one of the Tampa members really made us think about it, and it just caught me off guard. Bob Tennant made a major think about us going into executive session on something, and that was kind of that stood out to me.
What happened?
He just made an issue.
Without violating the executive session.
Okay.
Remember what it was? What we were even talking about?
I don't remember what we were talking about in the executive session. What it was related to, miscommunication. Well, a breach of confidentiality.
Right.
And what the session was about.
Right. Well, that was Tampa.
That was definitely Tampa.
Any others?
The one that pains me more, and I think about that, and it always made me question myself if I had done the right thing, and I believe I did, was in 1993 at the Chicago Convention. A lot of hard feelings came out of that. Our treasurer at that point, which was Ken Allen, did not have, in January that year, he didn't have financials. And when we arrived at Chicago, he still didn't have financial records, and we were trying to prepare for the House of Delegates. And one of the things I remember very strongly is asking him, he said he was busy with the convention, and he didn't have any help, so I said, well, I remember appointing Jim Terrell and Rudy Rudolph to assist him with getting the financial report together, and it was all taken the wrong way because at that point he still didn't have anything for them to help create financials for the House of Delegates. And what hurt on that is that a lot of people left that feeling that I'd attacked Ken Allen, which I hadn't. I just asked for financial records, and was trying to imply to the board that yes, we have friends here, but we're also a business, and when you're doing a business, you've got to separate the friendship from viewing a business, and they were required, and we had to make whatever efforts we need to make sure they were available. That bothers me because Ken, later on that year, I think, in the next year he passed, and there's still a lot of hostile feelings between me. I think people have towards me, but I don't think people really understood what was going on there. And one that really you want to think one that really made me angry, first I'm coming out.
That's why we're here for it all to come out.
Oh, God, this was a true confession. Was Dallas. We had a great board meeting. That was the year that Tom Miranda died. His sister had forwarded a check for $50,000 unrestricted funds for us. And I had mentioned to her when she had forwarded the check to me after it was in March that I would like to make a formal presentation at the convention and honor him so that we can, the whole board can enjoy, appreciate what he had done. And I remember I'd have that in March, April, May, June, I think it was in June or July that year, for 3 months, and they were grateful the check was good for that period of time. And the board, as soon as I made the presentation to the board that Saturday, that Sunday, it was spent. It just burned me up that people would just run through money that quick. That always angered me. It was as if people felt that when you die, you owe something, and which they don't.
Well, was the money actually spent? I thought it was put into a fund and allocated.
But it was people were like vultures. That's my personal opinion. We didn't. I think if people had just taken time to allocate money to specific things, not just argue. So many people arguing about, well, they wanted $7,000 for this, and it got into a real nasty debate about $50,000 for someone that left. And I kind of wish that we had not done it until the next year to let it sit in the bank and really plan how you want to spend the money.
Was this debate in the board or in the House?
It was debated more in the House, but however, a couple of members from the House happened to be in the board meeting when the presentation was made, so by the time we got to the House, it was already spent.
That was a pretty acrimonious House meeting anyway, wasn't it?
Yes, because we had to come back the following Saturday and continue House of Delegates meeting. It was just that.
That was the first year we had speakers, I think, at the House, wasn't it?
I think so.
And I know this is your interview, but there was an issue, I believe, over the fact that the board didn't have what the House thought was an adequate report on its annual activities.
Right. This is why we were so cautious about 1993 in Chicago. And something led up to it.
Well, I'll leave that for my interview, but anyway.
But it was different.
It was.
Yeah.
It was. Well, now, you were co-chair at the very time then that you were planning the 1994 convention. Whatever possessed you to do such a thing?
And the March on Washington.
And the March on Washington. Well, why don't you talk about those two things?
Oh, okay. Well, I feel that I'm driven by, I think, tasks and goals. In 1992, I was the chairman of the D.C. chapter. I've been the chairman of the D.C. chapter. We had chair and vice chair. And I just felt that I was able to do the job and put on a good convention. We had ideas. Kind of talked a little bit about it. Don't think at that point there was limitations for 1994. And it was also the time that I was trying to encourage Philadelphia